What's up, everybody? This is Jimmy with Trading Decoded, and today I decided to make another video based on the fact that I was being asked the same question a few times, and it's about support and resistance and how I plot them during the trading day. In my videos of last week, how I traded SPY today, I explain in those videos how I use these lines to base my trades and the exits for my trades off of. So I'm not going to get into that particular part of that in this video, but go watch those for answers as to how to use them. This video is how I chart them, how I spot them. So let's go ahead and launch TradingView. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to replay the day and show you as the bars are printing how I see it so that you can get an idea of what I'm looking for as I do this. But first, we're going to go ahead and define what support and resistance is quickly. So support is a price point below the current market price that indicate buying interest. Resistance is a price point above the current market price that indicates selling interest. It's pretty cut and dry, but evidently some folks are having a hard time figuring out how to spot them on a chart. And that's what we're going to be doing in this particular video. We'll also admit that the way I am charting my support and resistances are probably a little bit more of a micromanaging than some people may be okay with. I understand over the course of a day, depending on how erratic or how volatile the day was, you can end up with a bunch of lines on your chart. You can filter this out by determining what is a solid, strong support and resistance on more of a macro scale. So basically a spot that gets tested several times versus 2 or 3. You might be looking at 5 or 6 times. That would be considered a strong support or a strong resistance in my opinion. But let's get into this and I'll show you guys what I am doing. So right off the bat, I plot my pre-market support and resistance lines. Okay. So what I do in this case is I found a spot in pre-market where we bounced a few times or traded very tight to a specific area. And in this case, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, there's 4 or 5 bounces off of this line. So I'm going to go ahead and chart that as my first line. Now, in the videos leading up to this one from last week, I told you guys that going forward, I would use the blue lines to indicate those support and resistance lines being from the pre-market and not during the actual trading hours. So the second line that I plotted was a resistance from pre-market. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a whole bunch here. So that's a resistance. And then I did do a third one, which might not have really been necessary, but it's basically a line of resistance from the pre-market highs. Okay. And again, we bounced off of it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in a 1.5 hour period. Okay. Obviously there was issues moving higher at this point. And as a result, we know that there are sellers there, stopping the move from moving forward or upwards. So let's go ahead and get into the chart and we're going to replay it. I'm only going to go to what ended up being the high of day because after that, all of the support and resistance lines leading up to that point were there for the rest of the day and they did their job for the rest of the day. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. And I'll pause it when I think that there should be a line. So as we move forward, I'm letting these 3 lines that I already drew act as current support and resistance. Now I'm going to pause it here. If you weren't charting pre-market data for support and resistance, this right here, I'll make a line so you can see, would be a support line. Why? Because we tried to move down, we couldn't move down, we started on the line and moved up from there. So basically, almost like a spot of reversal. We knew that the sellers were winning and then the buyers stepped in to take over and move us in the opposite direction. However, since I already had a line relatively close in pre-market, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. We'll continue forward. Now, at this point, I am pulling a trend line normally because we are absolutely trending upwards, but I am not making a play until we at least break above this pre-market high. And why is that? Well, simply because we've failed to move past that point up until then. So I'm not going to assume that on this particular time, for whatever reason, we're just going to blow through that line. That would be silly. You would want to wait for a break through that. So we know we're trending up at this point, but we know we're coming into an area where we couldn't get through just recently. So the smart move is to let it play out and see where it goes. Now I'm going to pause it here. This looks like a mess, and it kind of is, but as you could see, we were moving lower. We ended up bouncing right back off of this line. Again, it's a loose support simply because, there was a lot of price action happening right around here. It's not moving out of the range, right, that we had set in pre-market. But we're going to let it keep going, see if we can get through this line. We do. Now, right there. This is my first line that I'm drawing. Why is that? Because we tried to move higher. We couldn't. Sellers came in, pushed us back down. It's a trend reversal, not a trend per se, but price reversal. We can't move higher. Even if this is temporary, now I'm immediately looking for this line to act as support. So it was resistance before. Old resistance becomes new support. Okay, so we're going to let it do its thing. See if we come down. We test it. We test it again. Now, we didn't bounce right off of it, but this is close enough for me to tell me that this is a decent support at this point. We couldn't get below it. We tried, and it got picked back up, and we're bouncing back up. So now we're in between a support and resistance level that we have to wait to see what happens from here. Will it bounce off of this resistance and move back down? Will it stay in this channel? This is not a good spot to take a trade because we don't know what's going to happen. We are trending up still. So if I was going to make a play, it would be off of a retest of this line, and it would be calls simply because it held the support once and we are trending up. I'm not trying to fight the trend. Could reverse at any time, absolutely, but let's see what happens. All right, we move up. Okay. Now, this right here is technically a resistance line, so I'm going to go ahead and put one there. Not very strong yet because we haven't really gone down. This wick here is testing that same resistance. So if you were going to be aggressive with it like I am, because I'm micromanaging my support resistance lines, then that right there would be and where I did chart this. Now, I'm going to let it play out a little bit more and see what happens. Okay. So at this point, first of all, this resistance is now acted as support here. Old resistance, new support. But we are having clearly a hard time getting through this line of resistance. Again, at this point, I'm starting to feel a little bit less confident that we're going to be continuing our move up simply because we're trying to and failing several times. Okay, this right here, every time we bounce off of it, is building a resistance, which is making it stronger and stronger. All right. So at this point, I'm very cautious. Again, we are still moving up in an uptrend. So if you insist on taking a position at this point, it should be a call, and preferably off of a retest of this line down here or close to it, just like we did here. If you were playing tight and, aggressive, that would have been an entry for a call. And if we break below this line before you take your profits, then that would be your exit. Okay. Slightly below it rather. But we would be hoping for a break through this resistance, which should result in a decent move after the fighting that is going on here for as long as we are fighting. So let's see. Tried to get through and reject it again. Rejecting. I mean, that could have been a possible entry if you're still feeling calls. Now, as you guys know, one of my own personal preferences is when we're traveling in a direction and then we start to trade sideways, I tend to find that the move out of this sideways trading is usually a continuation of what got us there. So again, even though we're resisting a bunch here, I'm still leaning towards calls because again, we are trending up now sideways, and I am going to play that the continuation of that move will be up. Again, understand it's a risky trade only because of how strong this resistance has built itself. Okay, now we got through that pretty solid. Now me personally, again, I am going to put a line here, but this is me being aggressive. This would not be considered a strong resistance at this point. It was 2 green bars. They both stopped at the same spot. But again, I micromanage my support resistance lines. So we'll see if this comes into play later on in the day. But as for now, I'm going to put one there because I would hope that it acts as support if we end up turning around. Let's see what happens. All right. Now, again, this right here would definitely be, if I didn't put one here, I would definitely have one there, which I'll do. We were trying to move up. We got a pretty decent move in the opposite direction. Let's see what happens. All right. Now, at this point, we put in a current high of day. We rejected off of it. We're starting to see lower highs. And I believe that in Discord, I said at this point, she's running out of steam. We may be rolling over. And what I mean by that is she's running out of upward momentum, in my opinion, only based on what I'm seeing here. Now, I'm waiting for a retest of this line to see if we can continue to move up. But with the way these wicks are looking on the tops and the fact that we're getting, moves downward instead of sideways, again, I think we could be temporarily rolling over. Not that we're just going to crash through the floor, but that's how I'm seeing it at this point. Okay, we failed to hold this support. Now we would be looking to see if the next one down holds a support. If it does, and you're still following the trend of the day, this could be a possible entry for a call. It's risky because this move has some momentum, but everybody plays differently. I didn't touch this because I wasn't feeling it at this point. Okay, now theoretically, now what's good about TradingView and a lot of other trading platforms, but I love TradingView. When you have the crosshairs like this and you hover over an area that you might think is support, just look at the dotted line and look to the left. See if there was other times that we touched that zone, which clearly we did a whole bunch right here. So this technically would be a level of support. I didn't chart it because it just becomes too cluttered, but that's where you would draw a line. But look at this. We were in a very tight channel here, but it did act as support. So you could theoretically use that, and it may come into play later on in the day. I don't know because I didn't put a line there, but we're going to go ahead and see where we go from here. Now that we've moved back up above a level of resistance, we would be hoping to come back to it and have it act as support. If it doesn't act as support, then we would be in a downtrend. Right now, we are in a downtrend, in a temporary one, but let's see if we can, move out of it. There's our support, touch of the line. We break through the next one. Okay. Again, we'd be looking for a retest of the resistance we just broke through and what was at some point a previous support line if possible. Let's see what happens. Okay, it's close. We break through it, and then we reverse back up through it again. So we're going to say loosely it's holding. Now it's acting a little bit more as a support. We're trading in this range right here. So we would be looking for a breakout either up or down to see when our next play would be. During this time is not the time to be getting into a position. Okay, we're testing the top of the channel now. Get through it a little bit. I'm not convinced because those are not big enough candles to convince me that we're back in our original uptrend. Sideways madness. Oof, big selling candle. And again, to the downside, we're looking for this as support. If it fails to be support, we would be looking here for support. All right, now we're hovering above the support line now. Okay, so we're starting to make our move. At this point, it would be aggressive because we don't know how big this move is going to be or if it's going to continue to move up. Got to let it play out. We are continuing the trend of the day, which was up. Okay, there was no reason to play puts here when you had this leading up to a sideways chop. Okay, because this to here and then over here is a chop with a temporary dip. This should not have been enough to think puts overall. I mean, if you happen to buy a put at the test of this support and you sold out here, great. But it's an aggressive move and it's a risky move. Trend of the day is always more important when you're trying to play conservative. Okay, we're still moving up, but these wicks or these candles are getting small. The bodies are getting smaller, which indicates to me that the buyers and sellers are going at it. Okay, the buyers are obviously still winning. The bars get bigger. Now we get what I would say is a possible resistance. So I'm going to put one there. We don't last long below it. We get above it. It acts as support here. And let's see where we go from there. Back down. Okay. So at this point, it's customary for me to, at one point, for example, this line was green on my chart until it wasn't the high of day anymore. So the next line I'm going to plot ends up being the high of day, okay, which is right there. I don't think on the day we ever came back to retest that, but these are the lines that I left on my chart for the rest of the day, okay? I'm going to let this play out at a little bit faster pace so that we can see in real time how these lines act and behave and where you could take trades off of them. I mean, look at, if you were coming down here, we would be looking for, in fact, this was a trade possibility for me. If we would have come back to retest this as support, I would have bought in a call to see if we were going to continue the upward move, knowing that if we broke through it, I'm going to cut that call. That's the difference. If you're going to play aggressive, it's okay. Just know to get out of the trade immediately if you're wrong. Do not hold and hope. Today, that would have been a bad thing to do. Now we're just going to let this play out so you guys can just see how these candlesticks interact with these lines that we drew and let it just play out. And now we're in after hours. So again, some situations, they acted as very strong support. I mean, if you look here, this was a strong support line. Go back and look to the left. Support, 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 support. I mean, I have to believe that the next time we come down to retest that, it's going to do what it has done a bunch of times leading up to then. Again, nothing is guaranteed in the market. So if I see this coming down, I'd be looking for support here. Now we did get a candle break below it, but it got sucked right back up, and I ended up taking a trade right there after I saw the buyers lift this back up. This had some momentum on it. I was scared. It was risky. There's a lot of volatility happening at the end of this day. This is from this past Friday, by the way. And I ended up taking a call after I saw this red candle turn green. Okay, again, it's the way I was playing. It was aggressive. I understand that. But if you look, I got in here. My target is the next line up, which I got out at. Okay, so it was a winning trade for me, but we broke through it. Had this move continued, up here would have been my target to get out. If I got in here, I'd be looking to get out there with profits. If it turns against me, I'm getting out shortly after it breaks below, back below this line, which I was hoping to be a support since we got above it. Okay. Hope this makes sense to you guys. This is how I'm trading. This is what I'm looking at. As you can see, I don't have volume bars on my chart. I don't have anything. I have a couple indicators that I'll turn on sometimes. Pivots, okay, which ironically oftentimes line up with some of my own lines. But I also have VWAP that I'll turn on sometimes, okay, because price likes to come back and test VWAP often. But as far as my everyday trading, this is what my chart looks like, guys. This is my actual chart from Friday. So it's out there, and it respects these zones, okay? Remembering it's not guaranteed is one thing, but understanding the relevance of them and why they work is also important. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I did this as a suggested video. And I hope that some of you guys find it useful. I hope you understand what's going on. If you don't, just leave a comment down below and I will answer it, or maybe have to make another video. I apologize for assuming that folks already knew how to plot support and resistance lines. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm trying to get better at this, and I assume things unintentionally and get reminded, which is why I come back to make videos like this. Please subscribe to the channel, guys. You guys are helping me out tremendously. We're growing at a pace that I could never imagine, which is awesome. Like, subscribe, share, hit the little bell notification if you don't mind. If you're interested in joining our Discord community, there's a link below to do so. I also have a Patreon account if you guys would like to support me and support the community and have access to things that others don't. Please join us there. And lastly, I have come to love TradingView. Obviously, I'm not sponsored in any way. I'm not getting paid to say this, but I do all of my charting on TradingView. I think that every trading platform should aspire to be what TradingView is on the charting side of things. I use this every single day, and I make all of my trades on my cell phone through the Thinkorswim app, okay? If you are interested in trying out TradingView, I do have a referral link in the description of the video that if you sign up, which can be free, you're just got limited indicators you can put on a chart, this, that, and the other thing. If you end up going to a paid subscription, we'll both get a credit towards our monthly payments, okay? That being said, you guys have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya!